Hey guys, it's nice to see and meet you all. I hope you all have stayed safe and dry through this weather. I've been doing a bunch of research on this cool psychologist named Sigmund Freud. He has a whole addendum on how he found cocaine to be beneficial. Can you believe that? Crazy how things have changed. Who have y'all been researching?
Hey guys, it's very nice to meet you all. That's pretty cool. I've been researching this awesome psychologist named Carl Jung. He was the founder of Alcohol Anonymous. Kind of cool, huh?
When I was doing research on Freud, it showed the two actually worked together, Carl and Freud. They had a falling out due to differences in their views on the nature of unconscious minds and the scope of psychoanalysis. Freud's perspective was that the unconscious mind was primarily driven by repressed sexual desires and instinctive drives, emphasizing on the roles of sexuality in human behavior. What was some of Jung's point of views? What was some of Jung's point of views?
Hey guys. I think it's interesting Freud used cocaine for quite a while, claiming it made him feel better when he was sad and how he made him talk about things endlessly that he thought was locked in his brain. And that might have inspired the idea of talk therapy used today. And Freud used cocaine for years until he began having chest pains and congestion, so bad that the surgeon had to make him open up his nose with a knife. In the 1890s, Freud stopped using cocaine after almost killing a patient while under the influence. I couldn't imagine being that patient. Like, that's so crazy that he thought cocaine was like helping him like think and get these feelings out and stuff.
Depending where you look, some sources say that Jung founded AA. Others say it was his work that inspired the idea, but AA would have never been formed without Carl Jung. To find a psychologist that inspired the idea of AA, that was kind of what got me hooked on Carl Jung, because I have a brother who's a recovering alcoholic. So I saw that as kind of like a personal thing for me to look in Carl Jung. And I myself have actually been to AA, and I'm not really afraid to admit it. Those meetings are kind of actually really interesting. That's interesting. I think I did see something about that, but I didn't read into it. Maybe I should have, though. He believed that the whole of someone's experience respected and included, rather than aspects be disavowed. He graduated from the University of Basel in 1900 and got his MD 2 years later from the University of Zurich. Both colleges are in Switzerland. He received a degree in medicine from Basel. He trained as a psychiatrist and worked at the, I'm going to mess this up, Berkel-Holze Hospital in Zurich. I probably butchered that. That's where he came up on Freud's work. So that's kind of cool that they worked together, I thought. Yes, they're both located in Switzerland. He was born in Switzerland too. So, the split with Freud capitulated Jung into his personal but creative crisis. He emerged from that period of self-exploration and discovery, also having developed the concepts that would become the cornerstones of analytical psychology. Jung was a very complex and controversial character, best known through his autobiography, Memories, Dreams, Reflections. Actually, it was dictated to his assistant, Anila Jaffe, who had a significant influence on the form and content of the book, omitting what she felt inappropriate, of course.
I also think Freud's Oedipus complex is crazy. He believed children had a desire for sexual involvement with the parent of the opposite sex, and their sense of rivalry with the parent of the same sex. That's just weird to think about, and it's just kind of nasty. But it's just a weird complex that he had.
Jung had his own shallow side, and his relationships with women and his alleged anti-Semitism in the war years have been discussed extensively. He died in Kuznach, Switzerland in 1961. However, his legacy lives on with the SAP and across the world, where his ideas remain a part of society's collective thinking. The most famous idea of Jung's is his recognition of the psychological value of spiritual experience, particularly in an era where traditional religious belief was waning and church attendance across Europe was declining. So Jung recognized that these spiritual longings, beliefs, and experiences stemmed from the psyche's intrinsic striving toward wholeness, which required that the individual move beyond and expand their everyday view of themselves, opening themselves up to the functioning of the deeper psyche and the functioning of what he called the self.
I also think Freud's Oedipus complex is crazy. He believed children had a desire for sexual involvement with the parent of the opposite sex, and their sense of rivalry with the parent of the same sex. That's just weird to think about, and it's just kind of nasty. But it's just a weird complex that he had. This stage, Ludo reemerges and is directed towards peers of the other sex. In this stage, individuals start to become more sexually mature and begin to explore sexual feelings and desires, leading to intimate relationships. Forming a fixation in this stage is said to lead to sexual dysfunction, difficulties forming healthy relationships, or other emotional problems. All of these 5 things that he thought that you develop throughout your age and growing up is kind of weird to think about, but some of them you kind of see, and I just think Freud's a weirdo in general, and I think that's what makes him so great, was his ideas were true and could be backed up by evidence, but they were just crazy. Who would think of that? But I'm really enjoying the coffee with you guys, and it's a great conversation we're having right now.
Freud explored the tensions between individuals' desire and societal expectations in his book, Civilization and Its Discontents. He wrote that in 1930. He argued that civilization requires individuals to repress many of their basic instincts, particularly sexual and aggressive drives, leading to widespread feelings of disconnect, anxiety, and frustration in modern society. Freud suffered from severe health problems in his later years, primarily due to long-lasting addiction to cigars. In 1923, he was diagnosed with cancer of the jaw, likely caused from the extensive smoking. Over the next 16 years, Freud underwent more than 30 surgeries to manage this disease. It's a really long time. It's a long time dealing with a disease, leaving him in chronic pain, requiring him to wear a prosthetic device and to speak and eat. Despite his physical suffering, Freud continued his work and maintained his practice by the late 1930s. Freud's situation became precarious due to the rise of Nazism in Austria. As a Jewish intellectual, he was a target of prosecution in 1938. After the annexation of Austria by Nazi Germany, Freud and his family were at serious risk. Yeah, that's really scary. Yeah, with the help of his colleagues and friends, Freud was able to secure a visa to leave Austria. He fled to London in June of 1938. If I said Australia earlier, I meant Austria, not Australia. Fled London in June of 1938, where he lived out until his death. Wow, that's really interesting. Freud explored the tension between individual desires and the social expectations in a book he wrote named Civilization and Its Discontents. He wrote this book in the year 1930. He argued the civilizations required individuals to repress many of their basic instincts, particularly such as sexual and aggressive drives, leading to widespread feelings of discontent, anxiety, and frustration in modern society. Completely understandable. Freud suffered from severe health problems in his later years, primarily due to his long-lasting addiction to cigars. Nicotine is very bad for you. In 1923, he was diagnosed with cancer of the jaw, likely due to his extensive smoking. Over the next 16 years, Freud underwent more than 30 different types of surgeries to manage this disease, leaving him in chronic pain, requiring him to wear prosthetic devices to speak and also eat. Despite his physical suffering, Freud continued his work and maintained his practice. Sadly, by the 1930s, Freud's situation became not so great due to the Nazism that was coming in Austria. As a Jewish intellectual, he was a target of prosecution. In 1938, after the annexation, don't think I'm pronouncing that word quite correctly, of Australia by Nazi Germany, Freud and his family were at very serious risk. And with the help of his colleagues and friends, Freud was able to secure a visa to leave the country of Austria. He fled to London in June of 1938, where he lived until his death.